You should have attempted the practice before watching this video. So in this video, I'm basically going to guide you through the passage, locate the clues, and show you how these clues lead you to the answer. And in so doing, I will show you what are the grammatical principles or rules that apply in the passage, in context. So let's begin. Today, learning to deal with the challenges of the race is just one part of the job for modern drivers. Now, we know that line 0, the first line of the text clearly has no error, but it does give us some information, especially about tense or the place in time that this text is situated. So from line 0, can you locate the time markers? Today, is one time marker that you should have identified. It's talking about now, nowadays, and is, which also tells you that the passage is written mostly in the present tense. I say mostly because there are instances where, let's say, an anecdote is raised, or a past example or a past scenario has been raised as an example, and so a past tense has to be used. But clearly we see here that line 0 shows us that the passage is mainly written in the present tense. One part of the job for modern drivers who also needs to deal with the publicity that comes with them. Your answer for question 1, right, the error that you should have identified is needs. Now, needs being a verb means that at least 2 grammatical rules apply. One, tense; another, subject-verb agreement. Which of these does the error fall under? Let's look at tense first. Needs is in present tense, and we say that it's mainly written in present tense, and this sentence doesn't tell you about a past event, clearly, because it's the same sentence as today and is. So clearly tense is not the grammatical rule that applies. Now, subject-verb agreement. Let's look at which subject needs has to agree with who. Now, who does, or what does who refer to? Modern drivers. Let's look at this noun phrase. The noun phrase modern drivers is what we call a plural noun. Needs is singular, and therefore there is this inconsistency. So they do not agree, which means that given that this is a plural noun, this has to be changed to need. Modern drivers who need. And the rule that applies is SVA, subject, verb, agreement. And so I put this in brackets. So you follow along. I have identified the answer. That is a correction of this error, and I've shown you the clue, which is modern drivers, the subject that he has to agree with, who also need to deal with the publicity that comes with them, since Formula One's transition into a blockbuster. Now, the answer for this, is them, the noun. And so let's recall, we already said that there are some grammatical principles that has to apply depending on what's the error. So them, let's see what this them refers to, reading from the top because it's in this sentence. Today, learning to deal with the challenges of the race is just one part of the job for modern drivers who also need to deal with the publicity. That means the modern drivers have to deal with the publicity that comes with the job, and the job includes having to deal with the challenges of the race, and it's one part. So it's actually singular. singular. One part. And therefore, our clue is them. Our clue is also one. And therefore, this pronoun has to be it, a singular. I'll put pro to indicate that it's the pronoun rule that applies. Let's move on. Since Formula One's transition into a blockbuster business on the 1990s, clearly on as a preposition is wrong, it should be in. So I put preposition here. And what is the clue that tells us it should be in? What affects this preposition is, you're right, 1990s. Easy. Okay, this is an easy one. A sizable chunk of a driver's time is taken on with the fanfare of meeting fans. Now, from just hearing me read it out, you know something is amiss, right? Because you don't take on a driver's time, okay? A time is usually taken up. And so here, I know I've changed it to another preposition, so to speak. But because it comes in this phrase where taken can be paired with, for example, taken in, taken up, taken down, it is actually a phrase. You've heard of phrasal verbs, have you? Okay, if you haven't, what I just mentioned, those examples are actually phrasal verbs. So for example, you can say put in, put up, put down, put on. Okay, depending on what the preposition is after that particular verb, like put or take or cut in, cut up, the meaning changes. Okay, so this is more like a phrase, phrasal error. Okay, so time is taken up with the fanfare of meeting fans, sponsors, and the media. Formula One is a very unique sport. For example, journalists had access to drivers for 4 minutes. The error in line 5 is not apparent, okay, at first glance. It's not like taken on and then, you know, on the 1990s. So let's read on to the end of the sentence first before we identify the error. Journalists had access to drivers for 4 minutes before the drivers have to get in their cars and races. Now, is this describing something that's past, as the verb had suggests? Because you realize that 2 different tenses are being used, so only one of it is correct. Okay, only one of them is correct. So journalists had access to drivers for 4 minutes 10 years ago. No, it doesn't say. There's no time marker here because it stops at races. It tells you that this is something, essentially is telling you that this has been the practice. This has been the trend. And for a trend, it's something that's currently happening and has been happening, and therefore the correct tense to use is present. And therefore I need to point, or rather, actually the error should go the other way, okay, because we always connect the error to the clue. And this one has to be, because journalists, therefore, it's have, which is a tense error. The grammatical principle of tense, or T, okay, in short form, applies. Actually, the real reason is really because this is a trend, or a current trend. Okay, let's move on. Line 6, we haven't identified the error. Is there an error? Now remember, there are 2 lines on which there is no error. Okay, so we have to be very mindful as we go on. Okay, of course, if you find error on every line, don't panic. Go back and see whether you have misidentified the error. It cannot be the case that all 10 lines have an error. Okay? For 4 minutes before the drivers have to get in their cars and races. Now, if you even realize, get in their cars makes sense, but get in their races is a bit strange, right? So where has it gone wrong? Is it get in their cars or races? No, they have to get to both of them. So the error is really get to their cars and get to their races. It's a preposition error. Okay, moving on. So you need to point it to cars and point it to races. No other sport has that kind of intensity, said Michael Italiano, a performance coach for top races at Renault. Here in 7, there is no error. Okay, no other sport has, singular. No is always referred to as a singular kind of noun. A performance coach for top races at Renault. All that leads to the need. Now, all that is actually singular. Okay, so it's fine. No error for both 7 and 8. To the need for drivers to development to characters. Clearly, something wrong here, right? Because this doesn't sound right. Our instincts kick in and tell us that to must always be followed by the base form, which is develop. Now, sorry about that. This rule that applies is to infinitive, because the to comes before that, therefore the verb has to be the base form, meaning there is no like modification of this word in terms of other word forms like development or develops or developed. Okay, it's just the base form. One that concentrates on the demands of the business, and another that focus on the sport. All that leads to the need for drivers to develop 2 characters. One of the characters concentrates on the demands of the business, so concentrates agrees with one, the business, and another that focus on the sport. So here is our error, because it applies, it has to agree with another. Focuses, and this is SDA. You have to be quite durable as an athlete, Italiano added.